Hola! So guys, we're going to do percent composition today.
Okay.
Woohoo!
What's percent composition?
Percent composition, well, we know percent is part of whole.
Okay.
Percent composition just tells us what percent each element is in a compound. So for example, in H2O, what percent of water is hydrogen and what percent of it is oxygen?
So we're going to need molar mass again.
You're going to need molar mass yet again. So watch that video if you don't remember it or you need to review. So let's get started. Okay, so quick example here. If we look at a map of the United States of America, and let's clear this. So the map of the US shows us all the states, all 50 states. The population of the US, I don't know, about 300 million or something like that. The population is not evenly distributed throughout the entire United States, right?
Right.
A certain percentage comes from each state. A really large percentage comes from places like New York and Massachusetts because of Boston and New York City. A large percentage, and arguably the most important percentage, comes from Texas, right? And then a really large percentage comes from California. And those states, well, let's go with Illinois too.
Yeah,
I can't forget
Chicago.
Chicago, right? Those places actually account for the majority, if not, maybe the majority of the population. Places like Wyoming, I've been to Wyoming twice. Not much there, okay? They account for a very small percent of the population.
Yeah.
So that's what we're kind of doing with compounds here. So let's do some examples. Let's go to our paper. Let me find just the right paper. Okay. There we go. So let's start with a compound, and we're just going to do this one example. We got magnesium hydroxide, MgOH2. Okay, remember, the 2 always goes on the outside of the parentheses when you have a more of one of a polyatomic. So we're going to first of all figure out how many of each element we have. We've got 1 magnesium.
And to distribute.
And we got to distribute this 2 to both things here. So 2 oxygens and 2 hydrogens. So we're going to do molar mass first, basically. So let's find out magnesium from the periodic table. We know is 24.305 grams, and 2 times 15.999, 2 times 1.008 for all the other elements. Now we're going to get what part they are of the total mass. So this is just like doing molar mass once again. So multiply these together to get our numbers, and then we are going to add those up to get the molar mass, which is 58.319 grams per mole. Can't fit it in there. Okay, so this right here is what we're going to use as our whole, and these guys right here are going to be our parts.
Okay.
So part divided by whole is going to end up being your percent. So I'm just going to erase this whole thing here. Remember, we had 58.319 was our whole. Just kind of have that there. So for magnesium's percent composition of magnesium hydroxide, we take magnesium's part, which was what?
24.305.
And we're going to divide that by the whole, 58.319. All right. So if we divide that out and
times 100,
and then multiply by 100, let's put that in there too. Thank you, Miss Angarasa. Multiply that by 100 to get a percentage. We're going to get 41.68%. Okay, let's go ahead and do oxygen next. We had 31.998 was the part, divided by 58.319, which was the whole, times 100 to get a nice percentage.
It's 54.87.
54.87. Awesome.
And you want to use 2 decimal, so that way it all adds up to 100. It'll be pretty close to 100%.
Right, and with the rounding sometimes, if you get like 100.1% or something like that, that's okay. So the part for hydrogen was 2.016 divided by the whole. We are getting very repetitive here, times 100. That's going to give us approximately 3.45% or so. So what does that show us? That shows us that in magnesium hydroxide, 41.68% of it is magnesium. 54.87% of it is oxygen, and 3.45% of it is hydrogen. So it's not just 3 elements, they're each a third. Okay, it's based on mass.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Pretty easy, right? Anything
Sounds
else?
good.
Adios, hasta la vista, hasta luego, hasta manzana.